a lot of these things we have to look at and see that it's not, and even when the animals are living, um, animals have to have prey. Prey.
Yep.
Lions are apex predators. So they kill. What do they kill? They kill African buffalo, giraffes, zebra, wildebeest, hippopotamus, a small elephant. They are killing these animals, but these animals that the lions kill to eat, they're not in Israel. Leopards live,
Yeah.
leopards live in the forest.
Yep.
You look at a lot of the images of leopards, they're just chilling on a tree branch, just looking around. And then they come down and they pounce on things and they kill it and they drag it up to the top up the tree. If you're in a land where you don't have a lot of forest, it's not a tropical jungle or forest. We know that there's no rainforest, there's no tropical forest in Israel. But we do see lions, leopards, black panthers in sub-Saharan Africa. One of the things that we also have to realize is that the land of milk and honey was a large land. The Bible says that God searched the entire earth for this land for his people, and he chose the glory of all the lands on earth, that the Israelites would not want or lack anything, that they will have bread forever, they will have wheat, barley, they will have water from the heavens and water from below, that they will have rivers and streams and brooks and mountains and hills and valleys. They said that the rocks would have iron and copper and tin, and it even says that the land would have milk and honey. And even says in Ezekiel 38 that the other nations will seek to steal the silver and gold in the land.
And that's happening right now. Ron, man, first off, I appreciate you greatly, brother. Man, I've been following you for a good minute now, man, seeing all of your work. I'm super proud of you, appreciative. So I just want to give you your flowers, because I know sometimes people don't try to credit you or mention your name, all that good stuff. So, I just want to mention your name and bro, man, you've been doing an amazing job with the filmmaking, with the books, everything. So I appreciate all that you do greatly.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
For sure, brother. Starting off, man, talk to me about being in the medical field and then doing what you're doing now, being in South Africa. I see the whiteboard behind you, getting to work, creating educational content that our people need. What was that shift, and how did that whole mind change start to happen for you?
Well, I was in the medical field for like 18, 19 years in Detroit, seeing patients in the nursing home, hospital, clinics, group home, psychiatric units, juvenile homes, individual home visits. And, I love taking care of people in the medical field. It's just that when I started to get into the quest for who we are in the Bible, is when I started to devote more time to that in terms of research and creating the books and the movies, Hebrews to Negroes, and that had its own life of its own, and and so I started to do more of the movies and the books than actual seeing patients. And that's kind of like what I'm doing right now, is mainly full-time Hebrews to Negroes, and spreading the message in my books in the movies in America, Africa, and the whole world.
Yeah, for sure. As you know, it's quote unquote Black History Month. You know, in America during this time, often we'll start our history in 1619, or we'll just cover the civil rights movement, talk about Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks sprinkled here and there, Malcolm X, maybe you'll be lucky to even hear about Malcolm. And, you know, it's just always the same Black figures, and it's always starting during modern times, and we aren't going beyond 1619. How can we better utilize Black History Month throughout February to actually learn about our true heritage according to the scriptures?
Well, the people in the schools, they have to even know that there's other history. There's more history than what we are instructed to teach the kids. And if they haven't, seen any of the Hebrews to Negroes documentaries, if they haven't read the books, if they haven't done the research, then the teachers are not going to know how to teach the students this information. They could get the books. Any school, any teacher can get the books, and based off the books, they can create like lessons for the kids to learn certain things in the books that pertains to them learning about our history as it goes back before, goes back into BC times, not just in the 1700s,
Right.
but going back to the times of the ancient Egyptians and these ancient civilizations that existed in Africa and Mesopotamia. They could easily do that. It's just that they might get pushback from the principal and the person that's above the principal, not the board of education, whoever the principal has to answer to.
Yeah.
These are the things that they will have to cross these hurdles to get anything taught like that in the schools during February. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot is being done to do that. And I think that there is teachers out here in America that have heard about Hebrews to Negroes. They have either seen the movie or read the books, and they know who we are, but they cannot teach this to the kids. Maybe because they're scared they lose their job. Maybe they're scared, or they know that the principal and people in education is going to shut them down, and so they'd rather not even try. These are all the things that I feel is the reason why they don't teach this on February.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. Life in South Africa, what is the major difference between being over there compared to being in the States in Detroit?
Um, in Africa, you feel like you belong here,
Mm,
and you feel more of a sense of freedom
mm,
and peace.
mm,
And you're not gonna, because there's more Black people here than in America, then you're not gonna experience a lot of racism and discrimination that
mm,
we see and go through in America.
mm.
And in addition, um, everything here is cheaper. Uh, Everything here is a lot of stuff here is healthier. Um, there's a lot of things that we don't have here that America has. Um, it's spiritually and physically, mentally, Africa is better, in my opinion, for Black people than in America. Now you deal with a lot of underlying stress just being Black and living in America that
Mm,
we may not realize, but over time, this underlying stress of just being Black in America, it can take a toll
yeah.
on your health, your mental, your psyche, your spirit. So that's one of the main differences between here in Africa and in America is the level of peace.
Mm,
and a sense of belonging when you're here.
yeah,
You don't have to, you're not looked at because, nobody's looking at you strange because you're black.
right.
Whether you're light skin, brown skin, dark skin, you have dreadlocks or
Mm,
afro, they don't, it's Africa. So they're not judging you.
yeah, for sure, man. In the film, bro, Hebrews to Negroes is amazing. I enjoyed it. Very extensive, informational. One of the opening quotes, which I thought was so powerful, Willie Lynch, talking about if you're not careful, they'll be able to revert back to knowing who they were. Why did you start off with that great quote, which basically set the tone for the entire film?
Man, that quote, when I seen that, I said, this is the perfect intro. Because they they knew when they brought us here as slaves that that to be careful, that if
Mm,
you allow them any way that they can get in touch with trying to figure out their past history, you
mm,
know, like that was dangerous. Like they had disconnected us from a whole continent. They
yep.
stripped us of our name, our culture, tradition, our oral history, all these things, man. And they literally erased us. Like they
Mm,
erased our brain, and then we programmed us in America. And they probably felt like there's no way, even after 400 years, that these people could, get back to trying to find out who they are,
mm,
and not just from the continent of Africa, but who they really were,
yeah.
that were taken on the slave ships. Um, I put that in there so people can really understand that although they gave us the byword as Negro,
Mm,
that you know there's a deeper history that
yeah.
they have covered up, and they don't want you to know who you are,
Mm,
and that's why I titled the movie Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America,
yeah.
because we went from being known as Hebrews or Israelites to being known as Negroes.
Mm,
And it's time for us to wake up. And that quote is like a setting the stage quote, because if you're black, you should know about the Willie Lynch letters. You should know
mhm,
about it. If you don't, then people need to read it. I didn't cover the whole. I don't know if I covered the whole Willie Lynch letter in the movie, but if you read it, then it shows you the level of how they plotted to
mm,
keep us divided against one another, so that we don't trust each other. We don't unite.
mm,
We don't know who we are, and yeah. So that particular quote from the Willie Lynch letter was the most important quote that I felt that needed to be put into the movie.
mhm. Come on now. Yes, sir. And the Black church, bro, is a major conglomerate right now when it comes to disseminating information, doctrine. I would say wrongly teaching us about who we are as a people, of course, all the time. We see a white Jesus every single time that we walk in, whether it's
Mhm.
white angels, everything is all white. What detrimental effect, in your own opinion, would you say that the Black church has had on the minds and the spiritual psyche of Black America?
Um, I think that because we have not, that the church has not deviated from questioning, is Jesus white?
Mm,
Um, and Jesus was a Jew, so
mm,
then we automatically assume that the Jews were white. And
mm,
then you know Jesus is seen as the Savior and the Son
mm,
of God, the Messiah, um, equal to God,
mhm,
one with the Father. And when you look at all these things, and the church does not ask questions as to why do we have to accept what they have taught us in regards to the ethnicity and race of Jesus and the Israelites and different characters in the Bible? This is the most uh, detrimental thing and damaging thing that has been done to Black people in America and Africa that are in Christianity. And even in Africa, you know, you can ask a man, he can be in his 60s and 70s, and you can say, "Do you go to church?" And the guy will say, "Yes." You say, "Are you a Christian?" "Yes." Do you believe in Jesus? "Yes." And you say, "Well, what color was Jesus?" And they say, "Jesus has no color." And I say, okay, that's the typical answer that Christians a lot of times give. Jesus is love. He sees no color. Jesus has no color. And then you say, well, you know, 2,000 years ago when Jesus walked the earth, what did he look like ethnically? Did he look like me or you? We'll see of the Black race, the Caucasoid race, the Mongoloid race, or the Australoid race, because he had to look like somebody. He was a real person when he walked the earth, correct? And they'll say, yeah. And then you say, well, what did he look like? Did he look like a Caucasian or a Negro, like a Black person? Then when you ask them that question, either they don't want to answer it because they either know what you're getting at, or they'll say Jesus was white. And you say, why do you think that? And they won't have an answer because they know that they have been taught this from the Europeans.
Yep.
You know, if you say, why is that? Why do we have to believe what we were taught? And who taught us that Jesus is white? And if because we asked them the same question, what color are the Jews? They're going to say white. And you can say, well, who told you that? Who taught you that? How did you learn this? And they know how we know, and they know how they were taught this. And they, over all these years, we still have not questioned these things and challenged it. And until we do so, then a lot of people in America, in Africa, and beyond, they're going to continue to believe the narrative that that the Bible is white, it's all white, and all the characters in the Bible that lived in ancient times, they look like Europeans, and so therefore the Black man doesn't see himself in the Bible, and his Lord and Savior doesn't look like him. It looks like your oppressors, the ones that are oppressing you and are exhibiting racism and discrimination against you on a daily basis. And to me, that's it doesn't make sense. It does not make any sense. And I don't know. It's like we don't use our brain. And I say we live in a clown world where things don't add up, things don't make sense, and people are not using logic and critical thinking. And so in order to reverse that, we have to bring the teachings in with facts that can dispel all these things we've been led to believe as truth. And the only way the Christian church can get this truth is if the pastor teaches it, or they allow somebody like myself to come in to their church and teach this to the congregation.
Yeah, for sure, man. When you hear Christians commonly say, well, the color of Christ, it doesn't matter, what retort do you have to that response?
I say, I'll say to them that does the truth matter? Does the truth matter? Yes or no? Or I'll say, does God want us to know the truth? Yes or no? Answer the question. And of course, they're going to say, yes, God does want us to know the truth. And I said, for them, don't you think that God wants us to know what Jesus looked like when he was walking the earth, and he was evangelizing, when he was teaching, when he was with the 12 disciples, when he was performing miracles, when he was actually a man that people saw and interacted with. Should we know whether or not he was Chinese, or he was Indian looking, or he was white or black? I mean, shouldn't that matter? Because at the end of the day, these are things that that are supposed to be facts and truth. And in our Bible, we don't really, can see where it says Jesus was a Caucasian. There's a scripture that says that Jesus was a Caucasian and he had blonde hair and blue eyes. It's not in the Bible. So how do we accept the truth that Jesus is white? Because I see it on the walls in church. I see it on the walls in our house, and Mary's white. So how do we get to accept that as truth? Because it's obviously on the pictures, and you're telling me that it doesn't matter. But it does matter, because if it didn't matter, then you wouldn't have this depiction of what Jesus looks like as a white person and have it in your house or in your church. You wouldn't have it. You wouldn't even teach the kids in Sunday school lessons, when they get the Sunday school coloring books, and they're drawing color with Jesus and Jacob and Joseph and the Israelites and Moses, and they all look like white people. You're teaching your kids that Jesus is white, because if you ask the kids, hey kids, Jesus, what did he look like? Did he look like a black man? Did he look like me and you, or did he look like a white person? And the kids are going to say, based on what they've been taught in Sunday school, that Jesus is white. So yeah, it does matter. We know that a tree, the bark of a tree is brown. We know that gorillas are mostly black and gray. We know that certain things have a color to it, and likewise, Jesus he was of a race, physically, and he had some type of skin color, whether he had a lot of melanin or medium melanin, and these are things that are the truth that does matter, and I always hit them with, does the truth matter? And they have to say it does.
For sure. When did this shift happen where Jesus was depicted? You can see things throughout Europe, such as the Black Madonna, Ethiopia. You can see Christ depicted as a black man, looking like me and you, woolly hair. When did this shift happen from Jesus looking like us to then Jesus looking like a surfer from the valley with the long stringy hair? He's white, he's pale skin, he's blonde. When did that shift occur?
It really started to come when the Europeans, they started to be the ones that started to authorize and translate the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Before then, all of this history that would have been transpired throughout the years and centuries were all oral history passed down from the Israelites to the young generation, and then when they got old, they could pass down these stories to their children. And it's not until the Europeans decided to be the ones to translate and authorize these religious historical stories that they then also depicted the people in the Bible as being white and not black. So I attribute it to the Romans and the Greeks and those in medieval times that wanted to draw images and pictures of the creation with God and Adam and Eve being white, and then Noah and Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, King David, Goliath. They, in Mary and Jesus, they were drawing up pictures and paintings of these biblical people being white. So, the Europeans were the ones that, came up with these things. Black people, if they did draw images of Christ and the prophets of old, they did so like the Ethiopians, depicting them to be black,
Mm,
in the same complexion as them. But when the Europeans started to gain influence in Egypt and Ethiopia, with the missionaries, then they started to lighten things up.
hmm Yes, sir. And Ron, when you get the chance, man, T.D. Jakes, he had the sermon, I would say, about 2 weeks ago. I kid you not. And he admitted that the figures in the Bible were black. He was breaking down things about Simon, about Luke. He was talking about, I think, Paul as well. And everybody in the church looked like scared. And I realized in that moment, it's a problem when black people look scared when a pastor is finally telling you, yes, these people look like you and that you come from these people. Do you think that films such as yours, conversations such as the conversation that you've been having for, I would say, like a decade plus at this point, is putting pressure on black mega figures such as a TD Jakes to finally admit, yes, the people in the Bible are black?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why TD Jakes is doing that now when
Yeah, that's what I do.
he's under fire with a lot of other things.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe maybe he's trying to divert attention now that he knows
Mm,
the truth. He's about to start dropping knowledge to pastors and his church members that, hey, we need to start teaching the truth about our identity and our
mm,
history and what was the true ethnicity of Christ and the
mm,
disciples and the Israelites. Yeah, the movie really forced a lot of people to question what they have been taught and what they know in terms of the Bible.
mm,
And Kyrie Irving helped assist that.
yeah.
And so now, if you did see the movie, the whole entire movie, uh, how can you go back and believe that you are not an Israelite, or that
Mm,
Black people are not connected to the 12 tribes of Israel? How could
mm,
you deny that? And if you know this to be true and you believe it in your heart, then by not telling others and sharing with others, whether you are a pastor of a church or you're a celebrity and you got a lot of followers on social media, you would think that they would want to wake up as many people in America, in the world, as possible to this new truth that they had come upon by watching a movie or reading a book. But we see that that's not the case with a lot of Black pastors who have mega churches
mm,
and a lot of influence, a lot of star power, a lot of connections into the entertainment world. And maybe when one or two or three start speaking out on these things, then people will gain the courage to do similar to what Kyrie Irving did.
yeah.
Because I know that Cat Williams, he said that he said something about our identity. He said Black people don't have an identity,
Mm,
and he said there's a reason why they blew off the noses of the pharaohs. Uh,
mhm,
and he wasn't trying to allude that we are the Egyptians, but he did say that they know that the other nations know more about our identity than we know about our identity.
mm,
And that was like a little hint, because if you caught what he said, then you're gonna ask yourself, what identity do the other nations know about us that we don't know? Because
mm,
that's what Cat Williams he said. And he didn't say we are the Israelites, but I believe that Cat Williams knows that we are the Israelites, and he's probably been familiar with Hebrews to Negroes, or he may have seen it,
yeah.
because Dave Chappelle was talking about it, Louis Farrakhan, you
Mm.
know, Kyrie, the NBA, people. And so I'm sure Cat Williams, either he's seen it or he knew about what this movie was basically saying. Even if he didn't watch it, Hebrews to Negroes means that we were Hebrews, or there's a connection between the Negroes and the Hebrews. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yep.
Yeah, I got you. Kyrie Irving, man, speaking on him, and that's actually perfect timing because I was about to be my very next question. So, Kyrie, man, when he simply posted that link, it put the whole world in a whirlwind, man. And seeing Kyrie getting suspended from the NBA, which you already know, it's a Jewish commissioner, Adam Silver, and most of the owners are the same as well. What was life like for you when that link, it was going viral? The film, it was already big, but it was getting even bigger of a buzz, circulation in the public zeitgeist. What was that like for you when Kyrie hit post of your link?
Um, I just watched what the media was doing,
Hmm.
and I realized that the mass media in the Jewish community, they were in utter fear of this movie. Um, they didn't say my name.
Hmm.
They didn't hardly say the name of the movie.
Yeah.
They just said the documentary, the film that Kyrie posted, the anti-Semitic film,
Hmm.
a book, film based off a book in 2018.
Hmm.
They would say everything except for the name Hebrews to Negroes Wake Up Black America.
Hmm.
And and Kyrie, he didn't say anything. He didn't text. He didn't text. I enjoyed this movie.
Hmm.
Check it out. He didn't text. He didn't say nothing. He just posted a link. So you didn't even know if he thought the movie was outlandishly false,
Hmm.
and the movie was a joke, or if it was good or if it's not good. He didn't let you know if he liked it or not. He
Hmm.
just posted. It's like if I post a link to Adolf Hitler's book.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of things in his book that you don't know. Well, does Ron Dalton agree with Adolf Hitler? Is there something in the book that he agrees with, and the rest of the book he disagrees with? He disagrees with. Is
Hmm.
Ron Dalton a Nazi now? You can't determine these things by just somebody posting a picture or a link to a book or a movie. And one of the things that was uh, strange was that he kept saying, I think uh I believe Adam Silver, yeah, Adam Silver wanted to hear you say I apologize
Hmm.
for posting a link to that movie. And Kyrie, he said, you guys keep asking me to apologize for something that I didn't create. And he
Hmm.
said, he said, I'm not the one who made the documentary. And he said this, and everybody, they had the phone, they had the thing right to his mouth, and nobody seemed to say, he's right. He's not the one that made the documentary. We're giving all this heat and energy to Amazon and to Kyrie Irving, all the basketball players, Shaquille, Charles Barkley, and
Yeah.
others. They're giving him all this heat. Um, Even all the newspapers, the media, the NBA, the ADL,
Hmm.
and I'm sitting at home, and nobody's emailing me saying we want to interview you to
Hmm.
see your mind. What made you make this movie? Who is this guy that made this movie that Kyrie had to pay $500,000
Phew.
a fine?
Wow.
Who is this guy? You
Hmm.
know, when Mel Gibson made Passion of the Christ, and it caught a lot of heat, he was he was getting interviewed. Are you anti-Semitic? This movie is anti-Semitic and the Jewish community is not happy, and la la la. And he had to defend himself in his movie. And they knew that the movie was called Passion of the Christ. They knew that he was the one that made it. And but with me, I was like a ghost. I
Mm.
was like a ghost.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that when he did that, my YouTube channel started getting a lot of attention and a lot of views. And the videos that I was posting were getting like 400,000, 500,000 views in like less than 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm.
And when I seen that, I was like, "Ooh!" I see a lot of people are trying to figure out who is Hebrews the Negroes,
Mm.
and so they search online and they see that okay, he's on Instagram, he's on YouTube, and what is he talking about? Let's look at the videos. And in my YouTube videos, when I had the YouTube channel, I would do a lot of promoting the movie Hebrews to Negroes and other movies.
Mm.
And I did a lot of advertising for H2N TV.com. And a lot of the Zoom webinars that I do, I was promoting that as well. And so a lot of what I did on the channel was a lot of promotion and advertising of how you can get my old content, my new content, how to subscribe to H2NTV.com. And I think when the Jews seen that, they said, wait a minute, 500,000 people looked at this video. And in this video, he has all his trailers for all his movies.
Mm.
He's saying in the trailer, movie available on Amazon, Vimeo on demand, and H2NTV.com. He's telling Black people to go to Africa. He's telling Black people to sign up for his Zoom webinars and to subscribe to H2N TV. How much does it cost to subscribe to H2N TV? And then they see that, oh, it's $9 to subscribe to H2N TV. And they know that those numbers were massive. So even if out of 500,000 views, if 100,000 people decided based off of looking at the video that they're intrigued, they're amazed, they want to know more, and then they go and they subscribe to H2N TV. So if you have 100,000 people on YouTube, they're all of a sudden they now want to subscribe to H2N TV. That's 100,000 people times $9 a month subscription. That's $1 million.
Mm.
And the reason why I know that this is the reason why immediately after these videos started getting all these views on my YouTube channel, I said, nah, I said, they're going to stop this. They're going to find a way to stop my channel. And lo and behold, strike one, strike two, strike three, all within in 24 hours.
Wow.
Strike, you're done. And I was like, what? I said, they're giving me strikes when I'm still in suspension. When they give you one strike, they can give you like a 10-day suspension. While you're in the suspension, I get another strike and another strike. So I'm in prison. I'm in YouTube prison, and I get a strike, and then I get another strike and another strike. You're done. Wow. I'm like, and you can't appeal it. You can't say where did I get what caused the strike. A lot of times they won't tell you, or they'll give you a timestamp, and you're like this. What is it? This is not hate speech. This is not anti-Semitic. What are you guys doing? Mm. And I knew that they did that because they fear the amount of people that I could start to reach that now know about Hebrews to Negroes. Yeah. And they didn't want me to be funded. Yeah. Because when that happened, CNN called me, Newsweek, Washington Post, I think the New York Times and the New Yorker, the Daily Beast, and these companies, they started either emailing me and calling me. And I said, what do you want to know? And they said, how much, they said, how much money did you make from reposting your film?
They're
And I
trying to
said,
count,
what?
man.
They're trying to count my money. And I said, it's none of your business. They said, well, don't you get analytics? Can't you just go right now and check it for us? And I said, it's none of your business. They said, they were like, come on. He was like, can you just tell us a ballpark figure? And he was like, they're like, before Kyrie did this, you were a no-name filmmaker. And I laughed. I was like, okay. He said, and now now that people know who you are, it must be nice. And how much money have you made? And I said, it's none of your business. And they said, well, how were you able to make the movie? Who's funding you? And I said, excuse me? They said, who's funding you? Would you have a production team? And I said, no. He said, oh, who's funding you? How are you getting the money to do this? How much money did it cost to do this? And I said, it's none of your business. And then he said, well, according to Google, it says that it costs, like, I don't know if he said like $8,000, $9,000 to make the movie. And he said, is that correct? I said, did you read that in Google? And then he says, yes. And I said, so I guess you're gonna have to go with the Google answer, because I'm not gonna tell you exactly dollar and penny how much I spent to make the movie. If you Googled it and you told me that Google said this, then hey, that's what you want to believe. You can believe that. And then so they every last one of them, they ask the same question: who's funding you? Who is funding you? And then during that time, all my Hebrews to Negroes GoFundMe campaigns were deleted, and I was kicked off GoFundMe. Wow. And I said, why? And they said security reasons. And I said, security like what? I said, I'm not a terrorist. I'm not sending money to Al Qaeda and Hamas and Hezbollah. I'm just a filmmaker. So what's the justification on you banning me from GoFundMe? And they didn't give me any answer. At the same time, I was in an Airbnb, and I tried to extend my days, and they said your account has been suspended. And I said, for what? They said security reasons. And I said, security reasons? Like, what do you mean security reasons? I said, I've been an Airbnb customer since 2014. You got my ID, you got my passport on file, you got my picture. I said, what? I've been paying, what's the problem now? So I realized that they are afraid of me reaching the masses worldwide, and then also me being funded, or people renting the movie, buying the movie, getting the DVD, signing up to H2NTV, joining the Zoom webinars, all the stuff. They're counting my pockets. Like he's gonna have the money to do this. He's gonna have the money to go to Africa and open up, buy land and do all these big things. He can fly all across the country to Nigeria and Ghana and Ethiopia and Kenya and Tanzania and South Africa and Congo and Angola. And he can fund, if he has this kind of following and these numbers on H2NTV, 100,000 subscribers a month, he can fund his way to waking up Africa, waking up America. He can just do it on his own strength, because now he has all these people, looking at his movies, and they get done with part one. Now they're going to see part two. He's coming out with part three. Now they're going to see part three. He comes out with part four. Now they're going to want to see part four. Just like Fast and the Furious and all these Mission Impossible, the sequels, they're going to say, well, this guy's going to have an automatic following now that people know about who he is. So we have to nip that in the bud. We have to eliminate him from YouTube. We have to eliminate him from Facebook. We have to eliminate him from Clubhouse. We have to eliminate him from GoFundMe. We have to eliminate his ability to travel on Airbnb. We have to eliminate all these things.
Mm.
And that's what they did. And that's what they did. And when I left America and went to South Africa, then they tried to ban the movie in South Africa. They weren't successful in banning the movie in the books off of Amazon, which they wanted to do. But when I got to Africa, the Jews in South Africa took me to, or they hired lawyers, and they used their lawyers to try to ban the movie Hebrews to Negroes in South Africa.
Wow.
So they're scared of the movie in America to the point that all these celebrities and the ADL and all these Jewish groups were urging Amazon to take it off the shelf completely after they did Barnes and Nobles, and the Amazon CEO said no. And I'm sure they didn't like that. And then South Africa, gets wind of Ronald Dalton and Hebrews to Negroes is shown up here, and he's trying to get his books in the bookstores here. He's trying to show the movie here and distribute it. And we gotta stop this guy. And they try to do the same thing in South Africa, and I defeated them with battling against their lawyers. It took like 6 or 7 months, but I defeated them. So they don't want this content out in America or Africa. They do not want people to know about Hebrews to Negroes. They don't care about any black movie. It don't matter what it is. They do not care. They do not care if I was on YouTube spilling a tea about another Israelite, like, saying this Israelite leader, he was caught in the club, he was caught, cheating on his wife. If I was doing stuff like that and teaching stuff that is not, important or damaging to their agenda, I would still be on YouTube. If I made a book saying from Egyptians to Negroes, they wouldn't care. Or from Cushites to Negroes, they wouldn't care. They would not care. But if I said black people came from a planet in another universe, they wouldn't care. But they care about the movie because, one, the main title, and then two, the subtitle is "Wake Up, Black America." And I think that people miss the message, because if the mass media and the Jews had such an issue with Kyrie posting this link to this movie, and the image of the movie has the black fist, and it says "Wake Up, Black America," then that shows you that they don't want Black America to wake up. Exactly. It shows you that, because they want to take the book off the shelves. They want to ban the movie worldwide. It's because they don't want Black America to wake up. They want you to stay asleep. And the way they keep you asleep is through entertainment and comedy and drama and fiction and thrillers and horror and all types of documentaries on the slave trades. And we already heard about that already. We already know about Harriet Tubman. We already know about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Judas and the Black Messiah. All these movies are based off of things that happened in history that we already know about. So how many times can you keep regurgitating the same Black history because you're not going to give us the true history? So we have to pay attention to these things, that if they don't want us to see these things, why they don't want us to see these things? Because the answer to a lot of our issues and problems is all based on us understanding our identity.
Yes, sir.
It's all about our identity. At the end of the day, we cannot know who we are and what our God-given biblical destiny is, which is prophecy, and what direction we must be moving into in this time frame, if we don't touch on who we are. That's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's going to be the president of the United States, the president of South Africa, the president of Ghana or Congo. They always have elections, and people are, excited. They're like, well, we don't want this guy in office. We want a different political party, a different president. The last president, he gave us all promises that he couldn't keep. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. So we think that these things are going to change our situation, and it's not. It's not going to change our situation. And as much as we believe that the government or politicians or celebrities are going to change our situation, they're not. And I think people are missing the fact that social media can be used as a weapon for our good, but we don't use it in that way. Shannon Sharp, I heard he made like $300,000 for just that one Cat Williams episode, and if it keeps making more views, then there's more money. So we can break the internet all day long with interviewing Monique and Cat Williams and whoever else that Shay interviews, but at the end of the day, YouTube is doing exactly what they are supposed to do, and of course you get money for views and monetization and ads. But at the end of the day, none of this is helping Black America. None of it. All the scandals with P. Diddy and all this TD Jakes, Cat Williams spilling all the tea. All this stuff is not helping Black America. It's just gossip and entertainment. It's just stuff to talk about, stuff to look on your phone and just be looking at your phone, and seeing what's new. But at the end of the day, when we wake up in the morning and we slave on our jobs, we struggle in America. We deal with the stuff that America gives us. These things are going to continue for generation upon generation, and it's going to get worse until we address the real topic that they don't want us to address and start to flood social media with. And Kyrie, what he did, I think Kanye West said that never in our lifetime will we ever see this kind of thing happen again, where what Kyrie did was something that it really, when he did that, I was shocked, because I never understood why a lot of celebrities would comment on my Instagram page, like Willie D, Nas, one of the guys from Mobb Deep, DC Young Fly, Shaka Bars, Anthony Joshua, the boxer from the United Kingdom, Big Boy. There's a lot of people, like I used to see these celebrities commenting in my Instagram page or liking the stuff that I post. And I'm like, well, how come in Amari Stoudemire, how can these guys DM me? How can they DM me saying, I read your book, I seen your movie, it's life-changing, it's the truth, all this stuff, but then they're afraid to post it on their timeline. Brandon T. Jackson, all these guys, I'm sorry, it's not too hard to just hold up a book and say, and go like this.
Hey, you're not lying, brother. You're not lying.
All you got to do is go like this. Like even the DVD, just go like this. And it's just like, come on. It's just a movie. It's just a book. If you are scared to show that you enjoyed this book, you enjoyed this movie, you don't have to you don't have to answer the question, well, do you support anti-Semitism? Do you believe in these things in the book? Now when we read a book, we have the ability to decide as sovereign adults, that if we agree with everything in the book or we
Yep.
don't agree with everything in the book. I
Yep.
read a lot of books and look at a lot of movies that I don't agree with everything, but overall, if I think that the book, the movie is good and there's something in there you need to read that you're not going to get anywhere else, then I will tell somebody, hey, you need to get this book, you need to see this movie. And we should not be penalized and canceled and fired and fined and suspended and demonized because you just simply read a book, watched a movie, and you decided to share it with your followers. That is so much fear, so much fear. And you gotta ask yourself, well, who are these people afraid of?
There you go. That's the $1 million question.
If they were in China and they did
Yeah.
this, or India, or even Africa, they wouldn't catch a lot of this heat because the Chinese, they don't care. The people in India, they don't care. But in America, it's like we have a daddy, a daddy that's telling you, you can't do that, you can't do that. That's a no. You're making all this money, but don't you dare, try to wake your people up. And it's just sad, man. And that's one thing, we have to look at our kids in America that are growing up. They see how all these celebrities are apologizing. They see how they're saying stuff and they're recanting what they said, and they're apologizing for what they said. They're saying this, and this looks sad as an adult that, usually you tell your kids, apologize. Like, Daryl, apologize for hitting so-and-so, apologize for what you did. And they'll say, I apologize, daddy, or apologize to the kid.
Yeah.
But here we have grown people telling grown people, say you're sorry. Go ahead and say you're sorry. Do it publicly, do it on your social media so everybody understands you're just sorry. I'm sorry for posting the link. I'm sorry, I'm going to delete the link. I'm sorry if I hurt people. I'm sorry.
Yep.
If you got kids and you're a grown man and you teach your kids to be a strong Black man, and you try to lead by example, and then you go on TV and you say something, and the next minute, after the heat comes, you're saying, I apologize, I'm sorry. That makes you look weak.
Yeah.
And I'm not like that. I stand by what I believe in. And if it's the truth, I'm gonna stand by it. And our people need to know the truth, and we need to stop being afraid of these other nations because we want to say a certain thing. And Kanye, he says things that people don't like. He may apologize, but he's not afraid to say these things. He apologized, but we have to get out of this apology tour, and we need to start, looking at our people. And if Kanye says we can't be anti-Semitic because we're Semitic, if Kyrie Irving says I can't be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from, I can't be anti-Semitic if I know where I come from, then let the man say that and let him believe that. Don't try to force him to apologize. Don't try to force him to apologize. If he believes that he can't be anti-Semitic because he is an Israelite, then let him be an Israelite. Don't make him apologize for believing that he is an Israelite and learning that he is an Israelite from the movie Hebrews to Negroes.
Come on now, Ryan, bro. Man, I appreciate you greatly, man. I just have a few more questions for you. You've been so gracious with your time. On that same point, Jamie Foxx, him simply stating, if they turn on Jesus, why wouldn't they turn on you? Oh, cancel him. So on that same standpoint, seeing that, I'm just like, it's crazy. However, though, our people are starting to wake up so rapidly. In that moment, everybody already defended him and said, yo, enough is enough. Y'all, you already tried to cancel Nick, tried to cancel Kyrie, this person, that person. Changing gears, right? seeing you on previous talks, interviews, excellent job. I would hear you just address about the land of milk and honey, right? And breaking down how you find more milk and you find more honey deeper in Africa and not where we see Israel today with modern day borders, all of that. Where exactly, due to your research and findings, where was the land of milk and honey?
Well, you have to, and I know it's hard for people to wrap their mind around these things, because one thing that you cannot change is DNA. You cannot change the DNA of people. So if the Israelites left with Moses and they were a multitude, the Bible says they were a mixed multitude, meaning that they were not only Israelites that left with Moses, but Egyptians and Cushites, Canaanites that were living amongst the Israelites and intermarrying with them. You know, you might have an Egyptian man and he marries and has children with an Israelite woman. You might have a Cushitic woman from Sudan that has a child with Moses, and the two children are called Gershom and Eliezer. You might have a Cushite man that has children with an Israelite woman. So now you got households that in the household you got an Israelite parent, an Egyptian parent, or a Cushite parent, or a Canaanite parent. And so in the household, if you learn how to speak the mother tongue of your parents, then you would know how to speak Egyptian and Hebrew. Just like if you're Haitian and a Haitian man marries a African American woman, then the child might grow up learning how to speak Creole and English, or French and English. If you have a child that has a Ghanaian father and an African American woman mother, then the child may grow up knowing how to speak Twi and also English. Likewise, if a Ghanaian man married a Somalian woman, then that child may grow up knowing how to speak the Somalian language and the Twi language of the Akans. So when the Israelites left, they left as a mixed multitude. The DNA of the Israelites left with them. And wherever they migrated through to get to the land of Canaan and where they settled is where we should see the same DNA of the descendants of the Israelites, the descendants of the Egyptians, the descendants of the Cushites, the descendants of the Canaanites. If you do not see these DNA markers or haplogroups in the modern day state of Israel, then there's a problem. We don't see certain animals in the modern day state of Israel, but they're in sub-Saharan Africa, then there's a problem. Because, you know, there has to be, I mean, unless there's another Noah's Ark event where all the animals got on a boat and they traveled down the, you know, somehow from Israel to the Egypt and then down the Nile River to Central Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. How else could all these animals get from Israel to Sub-Saharan Africa? You know, you got lions, leopards, you got rhinoceros. In the Bible, it says unicorn. You got zebras. In the Bible, it says wild ass. You know, you got a wild bull, which is a wild buffalo or African bull. You got hyenas, jackals, and dogs, and wolves. So you got 4 canine species that have Hebrew words in the Bible. You got a wolf, you got a dog, you got a hyena, and you got a jackal. All 4 of these canine species are not in Israel.
Wow.
In Africa, you have the African Congo Terrier, also known as the Basenji. And the Basenji is a dog that it doesn't really bark, it yodels, and it has like a curled up tail and pointy ears, just like the dogs that they used to have in ancient Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see jackals and hyenas and the African wolf. You see that in Ethiopia. All these things, they're not in Israel. When you look at the word ostrich is in the Bible, but there's no ostriches in in Israel.
Wow.
We have to pay attention to how words have been changed. Like instead of having the word ibis, like the African ibis bird, like thoth, they changed it to owl. They changed the African heron and crane that lives along the Nile River. They changed that to owl. When you look at the word bear, there's a lot of scriptures in the KJV, in the King James English Bible, that says the word bear. When you go to the Greek Septuagint, the word bear is not there. You're like, where did it go? Like, why did it disappear? The Greek Septuagint is older than the King James Bible, because the Greek Septuagint was the original Old Testament that they translated and authorized. So if it doesn't say the word bear in the book of Proverbs, but then it says the word bear in the English version of the book of Proverbs, then we have an issue, and we know that bears used to exist in North Africa, and they also have what they call the Nandi bear in Kenya, which is based off the Nandi tribe in Kenya that have these recollections and knowledge of bears that lived in Kenya, and these bears were big. Their paws had claws as a bear should, because lions and leopards, their claws are retracted. The cats can make their claws come out, but when they walk, their claws, you just see a paw. If you can see like a little claw right here, but they don't come out until they grab something. But a bear always has his claws. So when a bear walks on the ground, you're gonna see his paw and his claws into the print. And a bear is an animal that can sometimes stand up on his two legs and come down. Like lions and them, they don't do that. And so a lot of these things we have to look at and see that it's not. And even when the animals are living, animals have to have prey. Lions are apex predators. So they kill. What do they kill? They kill African buffalo, giraffes, zebra, wildebeest, hippopotamus, a small elephant. They are killing these animals, but these animals that the lions kill to eat, they're not in Israel. Leopards live in the forest. You look at a lot of the images of leopards, they're just chilling on a tree branch, just looking around. And then they come down and they pounce on things and they kill it and they drag it up to the top up the tree. If you're in a land where you don't have a lot of forest, it's not a tropical jungle or forest. We know that there's no rainforest, there's no tropical forest in Israel. But we do see lions, leopards, black panthers in sub-Saharan Africa. One of the things that we also have to realize is that the land of milk and honey was a large land. The Bible says that God searched the entire earth for this land for his people, and he chose the glory of all the lands on earth, that the Israelites would not want or lack anything, that they will have bread forever, they will have wheat, barley, they will have water from the heavens and water from below, that they will have rivers and streams and brooks and mountains and hills and valleys. It said that the rocks would have iron and copper and tin, and it even says that the land would have milk and honey. And it even says in Ezekiel 38 that the other nations will seek to steal the silver and gold in the land.
And that's happening right now.
Yeah. So when we look at the Jews, they are making tons of money in South Africa, mining gold, mining diamonds. You know, Johannesburg is known for its gold. That's why it's called Johannesburg. And when you go to Ghana, Ghana is known as the Gold Coast. And when you want to get tin, copper, brass, coltan, silver, gold, diamonds, bauxite, all the stones that are on the ephod of Aaron's breastplate of the 12 tribes of Israel. If you look at all 12 stones, those stones are all in Africa. They're not in Saudi Arabia. They're not in the Sinai Peninsula. So how could the Israelites gather these stones to make the breastplate for the high priest? How could they gather these 12 stones if they didn't have these 12 stones anywhere in the Sinai Peninsula? They didn't have these 12 stones anywhere in Saudi Arabia. How could they go and camp? And God said that, you know, you guys are hungry? Don't worry. I'm going to send you some food. The Bible says in the morning, the Israelite camp, there was dew on the ground, on the grass. And the quail was also there. Well, quail, the bird, lives near lakes and rivers, fresh water lakes and rivers, not the hot, saline, salty Red Sea. Quails don't live in the desert sand dunes of Saudi Arabia. Quails don't live in the desert sand dunes and rocks of the Sinai Peninsula. Quails live near freshwater lakes and rivers. Dew, most likely, when we see dew on the ground, we're talking about grass. Dew on the grass, not dew on the sand dunes of Saudi Arabia. I mean, a lot of times we have to look at these things. And the tabernacle that the Israelites used in the wilderness that covered the tent of meeting. The tent of meeting was the tabernacle, and it had 4 layers that cover so that they can keep the Ark of the Covenant, the table for showbread, the golden menorah, and the brazen altar, golden altar. It had to cover all these things. And when the Israelites had to leave and pack and dismantle this tent and go to the next area, they always had to wrap up each item of the Ark of the Covenant, the table for showbread, the menorah. They had to wrap it up with the outer layer of the tabernacle, which was manatee sea cow skins, and sometimes they will call it blue skins, the KJV. But when you look at where a sea cow or a manatee lives, they live along the coast of West Africa and Central Africa, and they live when you have these rivers that exit into the Atlantic Ocean, like the Niger River, like the Congo River, and these kind of rivers, right? They come out of the Atlantic Ocean into the interior of Africa, and they call them mangroves, and some people might call them swamps, but these manatees, they swim really slow in these rivers, and they can feed off of algae. They can feed off of what they call the water hyacinth. In the Greek Septuagint, it says hyacinth. It says hyacinth. is the outer layer for the tabernacle. And you got to ask yourself, why would the Greek Septuagint put the word hyacinth for the outer tabernacle? I mean, the hyacinth is a plant. It's a plant that is in the water that the manatees eat. They eat this thing. And then you got to say, like, what's going on here? It's kind of trickery, you know? And, you know, they could say dugong, sea cow, manatee. Then you might see badger skins, ram skins, goat skins, deer skins. You have, in the term, depending on the translation, Greek, English, Latin, whatever, you'll see like 8 or 9 different things that they say that the outer layer was consisted of. And we got to say, well, we know that badgers are in Africa. We got the African badger, we got deer, we got goat, we got all these things. But one of the things that Israel, Southern Peninsula and Saudi Arabia don't have is these kind of animals and these minerals and these characteristics. You know, if you look at the top 50 producers of honey in the world, Israel is not on the list. You look at the top 10 producers of livestock, cows and goats that produce milk, Israel is not on the list. Israel imports almost 1 million calves, and one other thing they import to feed its population. They import a lot of grain. They import a lot of things. Just like these Middle Eastern countries, they import a lot of the food that they need in these countries because they don't grow this stuff in their countries. They don't grow it. So all the wheat, the barley, the meat, the milk, the honey that a lot of people in Africa, they'll climb the tree and they get to the top and they'll extract the honey, from the bees and this thing of nature. All this thing, the palm wine, that's in the Bible, that's in Africa. There's so many things that are in Africa. The acacia wood, it's called either acacia wood or shittim wood. It was made to build the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant was overlaid with gold. Where did they get the gold from? To overlay the Ark of the Covenant. King Solomon's a throne was made out of ivory. Ivory comes from what? The elephant.
Yeah.
I mean, if elephants don't exist in Israel, then they call Amazon for a shipment. I mean, did they get a plane or a freighter ship to bring the stuff to Israel? No. This is thousands of years ago. So how would they get? It says that King Ahab, I think he was the 7th or the 8th king of Israel. He had a house built out of ivory. He had a house built out of ivory. It says this in the Bible. Wow. King Ahab, married to Jezebel, he was like the 7th or the 8th king of the kingdom of Israel. It says he had a house built of ivory. Ivory is the teeth of elephants. Yep. So when you look at one ivory tusk of a male elephant, it weighs like over 200 pounds. So to make a house out of ivory and one ivory, it weighs 200 pounds plus. Ooh. So how did they make King Ahab's house out of ivory when these elephants are down in the Congo and in Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Angola? These elephants are wandering around thousands of miles away from Israel. How did they get these elephants all these tusks? Like, the elephant ain't gonna let you just come and take his tusks without a fight. Either you're gonna have to subdue the elephant and chop and saw his tusk off so that he don't have no tusk, or you have to kill the elephant so that you can get the tusk without the elephant fighting you. Remember, back in those days, they didn't have the tranquilizer gun, so they couldn't shoot the elephant. The elephant just go to sleep. They could just extract the tusk. Back then, they had to actually either subdue the elephant long enough that they could just saw off the tusk, or they had to kill the elephant to make King Ahab's house a house of ivory. And I don't know about you, but I think if he was a king, he didn't have like a little
I was
shack,
just about to say that. So you talking about a massive property, a,
a
a
massive
palace,
property.
a palace,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
all the stuff, the acacia wood, the ivory, the silver, the gold, the honey, all the animals that the Israelites used to slaughter for the different feast days. They used to bring like thousands upon thousands of goat and
Mm.
rams and bulls and all types of stuff. Like, how do they get all this stuff? The
Yeah.
majority of all these animals are in Africa.
Mm.
Why? Because in Africa, these animals don't have to wander around trying to find the next place that has green pasture. The
Wow.
mountains in Africa, in the valleys, and the savannah has all the grass they need. In Israel, the Bedouins have to keep moving their sheep and goat. Once the sheep and goat eat all the grass here, the Bedouin has to move. He has to start
Mm.
walking. He has to find another patch of land where they can eat, because we know that Israel is more than 60% of the land of Israel is a dry desert land.
Wow.
And in Africa, we see the grasslands,
Yep.
forests, savanna.
Mm.
We see like they'll call the highlands, where it's like elevated like mountains, like in Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, the highlands, the rivers, the lakes, the plains. This stuff is not in Israel,
Mm.
and we have to understand these things. Even the president of Israel said that we've solved our water problem because we're a dry land. He
Mm.
said this. He said, we solved the water problem even because we are dry land. Well, why would you have to solve a water problem in Israel if the Bible says that the land of Israel is a well-watered land, and its rain is water from the heavens and water from below, and that the Most High takes care of his land all year round
Mm.
without stopping? The Bible says this. He said the land of Canaan, he says, I take care of the land of Canaan all year round, and it is a well-watered land, what rains from the heavens and rain below. So when you tap and get a borehole, the water's coming up.
Mm.
So why would the president of Israel say we solved our water problem with desalination plants and facilities along the Mediterranean Sea because we're a dry land? Why would he
Mm.
say that if Israel wasn't a dry land, or if it was a well-watered land? So one of the things that people can't grasp their mind, they say, well, the Persians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Romans, the Greeks, it says in the Bible they invaded the land of Israel. Where is proof of this? All these names of biblical locations we see here and there, but we have to understand that people can name any place on earth: Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Hebron, all these words. You can name these places. And the Dead Sea in the Bible, you don't see the word the Dead Sea.
Mm.
You might see sea, the salt sea. Most seas are salty, but you'll see other words. You start to ask yourself, if it's not the Dead Sea in the Bible, then what is it? When you see the Sea of Galilee, what is the Sea of Galilee? You know, and where is it truly at? What about the Jordan River? Is it truly in Israel, or is it somewhere else? And we just don't know. And when we look at these things, and this is the last thing I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
The Assyrians and the Babylonians in the Old Testament, we know that it says that they invaded the land of
Yep.
Israel.
Yep.
If the dark-skinned Southern Dravidian Indian are the closest descendants to the Assyrians and Babylonians, and I prove this in my movie and books with DNA,
Mm.
linguistics, oral history, then tell me why the DNA and archaeological evidence of the dark-skinned Dravidian Indian, even down to our melanin, that's in us. Why is it in sub-Saharan Africa?
Mm.
I talk about this in my third movie, in the southern part of Africa and in the eastern part of Africa. Their DNA is seen there. And you got to ask yourself, why are they here? Why are so many Indians here? Is the history that we've been told about indentured servitude of the Indians from the mid 1800s to 1911? I don't understand how so many Indians here, even though their indentured servitude didn't even last 100 years. But yet there's enough Indians here in certain countries to where if their country was as large as the United States, then the population of the Indians would be more than the population of African Americans in America. And we've been here for over 400 years. And then when you look at certain countries in Central Africa that are speaking a dialect that is an offshoot branch of the ancient Persian language. And we know that the Persians in the Old Testament, they allowed the Israelites to come back to build, Jerusalem, and then the Bible ends, and the Bible never tells us in the Old Testament that Rome conquered Israel, that Greece conquered Israel. It does not say that in the Old Testament. The Old Testament does not tell you that the Romans and this emperor and king conquered Israel and Alexander the Great came and conquered Israel. This is not in the Old Testament. And Alexander the Great's name is not in the New Testament. And when you look at Tiberius and you look at these Romans that during the Vandal Wars in BC times, they conquered North Africa and other areas in Levant, that history is not in the New Testament. So there's a lot of things that we have to start questioning these things. Like if the Israelites if Jacob and his wives had children, and some of them were born in the land of Canaan, and if we know the slaughter of Shechem with Simeon and Levi, how Dinah was supposed to be defiled by Shechem, Shechem was a Canaanite, and how in the world, if they're already in the land of Canaan, mixing with the Canaanites, and they're having children with the Canaanites, trying to make treaties and agreements with the Canaanites, and they leave the land of Canaan and they go into Egypt. How is it that they have to wander for 40 years to find the land of Canaan when they left the land of Canaan to get to Egypt? And they were familiar with going from the land of Canaan to Egypt, because when Joseph's brothers needed to go to Egypt to get grain, they knew exactly how to get from Canaan to Egypt.
That's
Joseph,
right.
Jacob would say, "All right, you guys go ahead, be safe," and his 11 sons will go to Egypt, and Joseph would just be standing right there, not saying a word, and then they will leave, and they'll come back. Joseph would be still in Egypt, just chilling, and they knew the route to get back and forth from Canaan to Egypt. But yet, when the Israelites left with Moses and Joshua, they didn't know how to get to the land of Canaan. They were wandering around for 40 years. So there's a lot of things that don't line up with the stories that the people in Africa, in Chad, in Niger, in Sudan, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Togo, in Congo, and Angola, and South Africa, their stories are different than the stories that we see in the Bible. And there's alterations and twists. And we have to ask ourselves, who are the real Israelites? Because the Israelites that are blood and flesh today are the walking Bible. They're the walking descendants of the people in the Bible. So their oral history, whether we say that it deviates from the Old Testament and the New Testament, there's some validity to what they're saying. If they're saying that we left Egypt and went south and we didn't go northeast, and DNA proves that, linguistics proves that, then what are we saying here? Because we could see evidence of similar words that are identical in the Kikuyu language in Kenya, in the Kikongo language in the Congo, in Swahili, in the language of Zimbabwe, in the languages of people in South Africa. So, and when you look at the word the words for certain objects and things in these different tribes in Africa, from Ethiopia to Kenya to Tanzania to Congo to Zimbabwe to South Africa. And you look at these words and you say, this word is the same. And you go to ancient Egypt and you see the same word and you see exactly what they say this word is and what it looks like in their time. And then in ancient Egypt, you're gonna say, well, wait a minute, you guys must have left Egypt and you really did travel south, because everything we see in the museums of ancient Egypt and the way you describe these objects, say for instance, like a drum, or a dog, or anything of that nature, you can say, hey, it's in your language. It's in your language. And in the Jewish modern Hebrew, even in Yiddish, you don't see that their language is mixed with the loan words or borrowing of the ancient Egyptian language, the ancient Cushite language. You don't see that in modern Hebrew. So when Bantu people speak, in their vocabulary, in their lexicon, you will see all this Hebrew, you'll see all this Egyptian, all this Cushite. And it only means that when the Israelites were mixing all those years in Egypt with Egyptian women, Cushitic women, Canaanite women, that a Creole or a mixture of these languages occur, so that in their vocabulary, in their lexicon, and even in their traditions and customs today, even in their DNA, we see evidence of the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Cushites, the ancient Canaanites, mixed in with the ancient Israelites. And the only reason why we know that these Bantu people kept their pedigree pure, because they kept everything under their father's lineage, So that means that every Ashanti woman and son had an Ashanti father. Every Congo king has a Congo father that was a king, or whatever. You know, when you look at our DNA haplogroup, you're gonna see our DNA for the most part is gonna be E1B1A. That's gonna be the most common DNA haplogroup that we have, even in Haiti, Jamaica, Bahamas, America, Sub-Saharan Africa. This means that if we trace back our father or our ancestral forefather, paternal, it goes back to one man. When you do that with other races in North Africa, like the white Arabs, when you do that with the white Jews, when you do that with Europeans, you're gonna see they have like 6, 7, 8, 9 different Y DNA haplogroups. It's because they are people that are of different nations, and they converted to a religion. And usually your religion has a liturgical language. The language of the Catholic Church is Latin or Italian. The language of Islam is Arabic. The language of Judaism is Hebrew. So if you convert to Islam and you're speaking a Turkic dialect, a Germanic dialect, a Slavic dialect, then by default, if Islam has taken over your customs, your tradition, your way of life, then you're going to learn how to speak Arabic so that you can go into the mosque and be reciting in Arabic. The same thing with Hebrew. If you want to follow Judaism to the core, eventually you're going to want to know how to speak Hebrew or learn the Hebrew language, because then you start to assimilate. Like, man, I'm a true Jew. I'm a true Arab. I'm speaking the language of the people that started this religion. And this is, I mean, if you were in Maoism or Buddhism or any type of religion that's like centered in China, you might learn how to speak these languages. But, you know, people in Sub-Saharan Africa that are of Bantu descent, they don't have to do this. They're already practicing normal, everyday cultural things, traditions, and customs And they didn't have to go to church to learn this. They didn't have to go to Hebrew school. Nobody had to teach them this. They just doing it. They don't have a Bible to reference in the Torah to know to circumcise on the 8th day, to name your child on the 8th day. If a woman has a baby, she's unclean. She can't be around nobody. If a man gets circumcised, he has to be taken up to a hill or a high mountain, and an elder or a priest has to do it. You know, all these things that we like, the first fruits of your harvest goes to God, and you set aside a part of your land for the foreigner and the stranger. You rest the land after 7 or 8 years. It's called a land Sabbath, and that whole year you just leave the land, let it be. And all these things are being practiced in Africa, and they were doing this before the white man gave them the Bible. You know, so when you look at all of this, and then you look at their language, and you see their language has ancient Hebrew and ancient Egyptian in it, who else would know how to speak Egyptian and Hebrew or have it embedded in their language other than the Hebrews that spent hundreds of years in Egypt? So the facts are there, and this is what I bring out. And people still can't look outside the Bible, because if they see their King James Bible and it says, right, if it says unicorn, they're gonna say, well, why is a unicorn in my Bible? Well, no, in the Greek Septuagint, it says rhinoceros. It says that. Anybody can go and look up rhinoceros. Rhino is your nose, like a rhinoplasty, and keros is a horn. It's like a horn on your nose. Rhinoceros, Keros. So you got a horned nose. That's what rhinoceros means in Greek. A unicorn has a horn up here on the forehead. A rhino has a horn on its nose. So the Greeks knew this. But when the Catholic Church came, they erased this and put unicorn. We know unicorns aren't in ancient Israel. It's not. It's a mythological creature, but they put it in there. Just like they put the Red Sea, but the Red Sea in Hebrew is a river or lake of reeds, papyrus reeds. So you can make it in Uganda and in Congo. Women make a reed basket. They use reeds and they weave it into a reed basket, like what Moses was in. Reeds grows along freshwater river banks, along the banks and lakes. Reeds do not grow along the banks of a saline, salty, hot Red Sea. Just Google Red Sea beach or coastline. You're going to see no reeds. You're going to see just the beach and water. And if you go to the Red Sea, they're going to say, yeah, this water is warm. It's super hot. It's super saline. It's so saline. Like I wouldn't advise you to put it in your mouth. You know, you want to go for a swim? Yeah, go for a swim. It's gonna feel real good because it's hot. These plants, these reeds don't grow along the Red Sea. So we look at Yam Suf. Yam can mean lake, large lake, large river, large sea. People think, well, it's a sea. No, it can mean many things. This is called polysemy. Polysemy means a word can have multiple meanings. So, man, there's so much stuff in the Bible, and we've been hoodwinked and bamboozled because we look at it from a European lens, which is what the Europeans wanted us to do.
Yes, sir.
So they can trick us to not believe that the Bible is an African book, but it is based off of Israelite or Black histories, traditions, customs. They just doctored it and repackaged it so that we can't see ourselves in that Bible. And when we look at the Middle East, when we look at Jesus, and he's wearing on TV these long garments with like a little sash over his shoulder. They're doing that in Africa. They're walking around with long garments with a sash over the shoulder, or one shoulder is showing, the other shoulder has a sash around it, like in Ghana. The fringes that you see the Israelites wear today on the corners and the streets, they actually wear these fringes in Africa. A lot of times it's worn by the kings and people with high status. And these are twisted thread or cloth that you have. And in some cases, you'll see it on the four corners. When you look at some of the Congo pictures of the ancient garments that the Congo people wore before the Portuguese and the Belgium people came. So there's a lot of stuff that's there. People, of course, still reject it, and they say that the land of milk and honey is the size of New Jersey and Togo, and that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that the land is wide, is vast, it's massive, it's large. He said that. He said, "I'm gonna give you a large, vast land flowing with milk and honey. The glory of all the lands." And if God is a righteous God and he loves his children, then if they left Egypt, and Egypt was like 40 to 50 times bigger than the land of Israel. Israel is like 40 times smaller than the land of Egypt. So the Bible says that the children of Israel multiplied greatly, and there arose a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph, and he said, these Israelites are multiplying so much that the land is filled with them. And if we don't do something, they're going to gain allies and they're going to overtake us. So we have to institute eugenics. We have to start killing the firstborn males because the land is filled with Israelites. The Bible says this. So if the land was filled with Israelites so much that the pharaohs were complaining, then why would God take the Israelites way back thousands of years ago and take them out of a large land and put them into like a motel, like a small little house, and say, here's the land for all your descendants and seed to have forever? Why would he take them out of a mansion and put them in like some small slave quarter? Why would he do that? He had to give them a land that was even bigger than Egypt, that had more than what Egypt had. So it makes sense that the modern day state of Israel, it cannot be the land of Canaan. It cannot be the land of milk and honey. There's so many things that defy that. And we just have to use reality. We have to use reality and not just, my Bible says this. My Bible says this. It says right here in Deuteronomy this, in Exodus this, and Numbers this. This is what it says in Judges and First Chronicles. Like, use reality, brother. Use reality. Break free. Break free. And people can't do that. People can't do that. So this is why I think this is why a lot of Israelites today are not promoting and saying, hey, man, I watched Ronald Dalton's newest movie, Hebrews and Negroes 3, sound the alarm on H22V. It's the truth. Man, we need to wake up, guys. Watch this movie. They're not doing that because one of the things that the Israelites and even the Christians do not want to let go. They could say we the Israelites all day long, but if you say that Sub-Saharan Africa is the true land of Canaan, now we have a reason to say we need to get back home, because the land of Canaan is our land. That's our ancestors' land. And the Bible says that he will bring us back into our own land. And we're thinking we may need to go to Israel. And right now, with all the fighting that's going on in Israel, Israel is being destroyed. The West Bank and the Gaza Strip, they are demolishing it. And this is the land of Israel. The Gaza Strip is demolished. That is part of the land of Israel. The West Bank is also part of the land of Israel. But, these people have to wake up. I know I talked a lot, but I had to cover.
Ron, man, thank you so much, brother. That was a phenomenal discussion. Bro, I'm just truly blown away. Masterclass, all the information. And bro, for me, you are always welcome back on the platform anytime, man. I thoroughly enjoyed today's conversation. So I'll have this recorded and posted, man. That was a mic drop. Thank you, brother. Greatly, man. So I appreciate you, bro. That's a wrap. Hey, you gave me 2 hours of your time. So I appreciate you, man.